that in addition to Google Guide organization, and they more or less raised their hand and said, hey, I'm going to make myself available to be a resource for this project and be a resource for the guide. So I've given every single Google Guide to Google Gurus who they can go to with questions, concerns, as we move forward in the project. So you have another point of contact, so we'll go through that. Then we're going to spend some time talking about the Get Going with Google site. So hopefully you've been out there already. We have been hearing that some of you are having access issues. So we're going to talk about those. I'm going to actually show you the site and how you can navigate it, what's out there. And then I'm going to spend some time talking about training strategy. So I cannot tell you how many emails I've been getting over the last few weeks of people saying something along the lines of, I really, really want to get trained now. When can I get trained? When are you going to start training us? These meetings are really more about the program, more about getting you ready for what you need to do as a guide, less about instructing you on the application. So I'm going to talk to you about what that training strategy is and why we have it set up the way we do. Then we're going to talk about the ITD phase. You might remember that slide. It was a much simpler slide. It basically just had the space timeline here in the middle. So I basically wanted to add some details about what each of these sections mean. I'm not going to spend time today going through each of these extra pieces of information, but we have emailed this deck out to you and it is on the Get Going with Google SharePoint site. So I encourage you to go in here, take a read at least once, and just see what you might need to know from this slide. I will remind you about the three-phased approach. So we are going live with Google in 3 phases. First is the ITD phase. So the ITD phase is our first phase, that is IT and digital departments, so information technologies and digital departments. If you are in this group, because some guys are, you know who you are, you've already been emailed, you've already been getting communications from us. You go live next Monday. So really, really soon here, there's some important stuff we'll talk about later on about what you need to know to be ready for that. Next, we have the early adopter go live. That's going to happen on January 25th, so just a little over a month from now. That's when most of the rest of you will be ready to go and working within Google. So that's when most of you will be getting access to your Gmail, your Google Drive, all of those other things will be January 25th. And then everyone else in the organization will join you on Google on February 22nd. I also want to remind you about the meetings that we have coming up for each other to meet, so specifically the Google Guides meeting. We've already had our kickoff meeting, that was our first one. Now we have the Google Guides program update meeting, that's the one you're in right now. And we have 2 more meetings coming up after that. We have the week of January 4th, we have a Google Guides transition prep meeting. This is a really exciting one. So we are going to be talking about everything you need to know to be ready for your go live date in January. And we're going to be talking with the Off of Office program. So we're going to have people from the Off of Office workstream coming and talking to you. What is that program, you might ask? We're going to talk about that a few different times throughout this presentation. But at a high level, the Off of Office program is the set of people who are working on removing Microsoft Office. Because as you remember, the day that we give you Google will not be the same day that we remove Microsoft Office. So you are going to be good to go. People are going to give you all the instructions you need. And if you have questions about what that process looks like, they'll be there to answer them next time we meet. Okay. So this is a slide that should look familiar, but like I promised, with extra information. So the last time that we spoke, really this slide just had this top line that said current state and this bottom line that said future state. And we got a ton of questions from you guys asking something to the effect of, well, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I don't know if I'm ready to lose Google or to lose Microsoft on day 1. What applications am I going to have on day 1? So we tried to make that as clear as possible on this slide. So this middle band, this day 1 during transition band, that is where you can find all of the different applications that you have access to until the Off of Office program kicks in and takes away Microsoft Office. So that means you're going to have access to all of your Microsoft tools on day 1 of the transition and for at least a few months after that. There are only a few nuances to that I want to make sure you know about. The first one is Outlook. So you'll still have Outlook on your computer. We won't remove Outlook from your computer. However, you will no longer receive emails in Outlook. So that means it'll be read-only. So basically, as soon as you get your Gmail, you will stop receiving emails in Outlook. You have to do your email management through Gmail. The other thing I want to spend a couple minutes talking about is Box, because this is another thing that goes read-only at a specific point, and I want to explain to you guys what that looks like. So, as we talked about last time, we are migrating your Box files for you into Google Drive. So no action required. We will be moving those files for you into Google Drive. Because you guys get early access to your Google Drive, you will actually see your Box files in there as soon as you log in. But I'm going to tell you now, and I'll remind you again later, we do not want you touching and editing those Box files until the rest of the organization goes live during the Global Go Live on February 22nd. So we're going to label them Do Not Touch. We'll remind you a few more times. But basically, if you try to edit the Google Drive version of the Box files that we've migrated, you're going to lose your edits because we're going to do continuous updates to that Drive file based on what's actually happening in the Box file, because most people still only have access to Box. So you'll see those files early, but we don't want you to touch them early, is what I'm trying to tell you. Then when the organization does go live in February, those files in Box will become read-only, so you won't be able to make any more edits in Box, and you will only be able to make edits in Google. The other nuance I want to make sure I share with you all about Box is that you will not be having your Box notes migrated. So all the files will come over, but Box notes will not migrate. If you are someone who really relies on those Box notes and still wants them, because Box will still be read-only, you can go over and manually bring them over, and we're going to provide you with a tip sheet about how to do that and what those best practices are. We just can't do that for you on the project team level. You have to do it for yourself. The other application we got a lot of questions about the last time that we spoke was Google Chat. So I made a list on this slide of all of the things that are true so that you know exactly what's happening with chat. So are we moving to Google Chat? Yes. Is Zoom chat going away? Yes. However, is Zoom web meetings going away? No. So that means we're going to be having you use Google Chat to IM each other, to send each other messages. However, web meetings like this one will not be going away. You'll still do those on Zoom. Now, one of the big things I'm really excited about with you guys moving to Google Chat is that every single person who has a Common Spirit email, so everyone across Common Spirit, is going to be able to access their Google Chat. Whereas right now, only about half of the organization actually has Zoom chat. So we're giving a lot more people access to a chat functionality through Google Chat. You will be able to find people really easily in Google Chat using any of their email aliases. And actually, my next slide deep dives into what an email alias is, so I'll explain in detail in a second. But basically, if you're someone who has multiple email addresses associated with your name, if you have a Dignity Health email, and you have a Trinity Health email, and you have a hospital-specific email, right? Those are all different email aliases. They're all different names for the same account. And you're going to be able to be found in Google Chat using any of those aliases. And then lastly, I want to mention something to you. If you are someone who works with patients, so if you're on the clinical side of things, you are allowed to send information through Google Chat. So it is HIPAA compliant, just like all of the other base Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, all of those things are HIPAA compliant. So it's okay if you send something through there, although you should still do all of your patient care documentation, all of that official work should be done through your EHR system. That is not changing. So it's not a bad thing necessarily for you to send things through Google because it is HIPAA compliant, but we still want you using your EHR system. time we spoke, we got lots of questions to the effect of what's going to happen to my old email addresses when you give me the @commonspirit.org email address. Because you guys might remember, every single person across the organization is going to be given an @commonspirit.org email address. But I want to be very clear that you are not losing any of your other email addresses. As we are bringing all of you into the same global address book, we are doing what's called aliases, meaning different names to the same account. So if you're someone who has multiple different emails, so if you're someone who has that Dignity account, you have one that's specific to your hospital, maybe you have a Mercy One West Des Moines account, maybe you have an @Trinity Health account, whatever it is, all of those will be retained, and they're just different names to the same inbox. So anytime you receive mail in any of those emails, they're going to the same inbox. And when you're sending information from your Google account, your Gmail account, you're going to be able to choose what name you send it from. So you're going to have like a little drop down basically that says, do you want to send this from your @commonspirit.org account? Do you want to send this from your @Dignity Health account, so that you can control what it looks like to the person you're receiving it. So if you are emailing someone in your local hospital and you want to use your local hospital email @Trinity Health, you can do that. If you are emailing someone at the national IT level and you want to use that @commonspirit.org account, you can do that too. So nobody is losing anything. You are getting one new name, and all of these are just called aliases because they're different names to the same account. Which brings me to my last thing of this section, which is CHI-wide self-service password reset. So this does not apply to you if you are Legacy Dignity Health. This is only applying to you if you are Legacy CHI. So a big part of this program, a big reason that we've done this whole program, is we want to get you all into one system. Currently, Common Spirit Health is made up of a lot of different smaller organizations, and those organizations aren't necessarily going away, but we don't want you to be in the 13 different email domains that you currently are. That's what causes a lot of the inconsistencies between domains. You don't know who has access to what, how to reach people. So bringing you all into one domain is going to have a lot of benefits for you all. In order to accomplish this, we essentially on the program team need to make sure that every single person is who we think they are, and that you are associated with the email accounts that we think you're associated with. So the Dignity Health side has actually already done this process through a different IT initiative at another time. That's why this only applies to Legacy CHI. But you're really just going to have to do 4 steps. You're going to, 1, activate your unified identity account. 2, set a new password. 3, set security questions. And 4, verify your linked account. So in step number 4, that's where we're basically going to go in and say, hey, I think that these email aliases are assigned to you, but I want you to confirm. And that's to make sure that when you get in there on day 1, all of the emails in your inbox are actually for you. We're just trying to make sure, be super clear. So what happens if you do not do this? You have to do this before you log into Google. So that means if you don't do it prior to logging into Google, you're basically going to get an error when you try, and it's going to say you need to go do the SSPR, come back after you've done it. Now, I did get an extra detail today that I want to make sure I tell you guys. You have to do this before you try to log into Google, so this is most pertinent, right, for those people who are Heritage CHI who are going live next Monday. If you don't do it this week and you wait to do it next week, next Monday morning, you can do it. You'll get an error message. It'll say, hey, go complete this. You can complete it. But it might take a few hours for the SSPR to take effect in the system. So you could essentially get locked out of your email for a while. So it is so important that you always get this done. You're only going to have to do it one time, so always was the incorrect word. But make sure you get this done before you try to log into Google. We've already communicated with the users who this affects, who are in ITD, so the people who go live next